Hello, today we're making a video of doing the bass alignment on several of the Vandersteen products. The Quatro, the Model 5 series loudspeaker, but here in this case here we're doing the Model 7 Mark II. Required for this alignment would be the alignment tool that's part of the kit that comes with the products we just mentioned. A Radio Shack SPL meter, the analog version, which the disc is calibrated to. We want it to be on the C weighting. We want it to be on the fast response, 70 dB scale. The test disc that comes with the products, we call them the Vandertones, is the source that we'll be using for this procedure. And you can download off of our website this worksheet that helps document the procedure. So here we go. The first part of the procedure is calibrating the level of the test tone. And we do that by looking at track 9, 10, and 11 and adjusting them to where they average 70 dB between the three of them, or 0 on the meter on the 70 dB scale, which corresponds to 7 dB. As you document these procedures on your worksheet, the way I do it, and it works best, is you give a +2 or a -2 reference to 70 dB, always reference to 70. It says so on the worksheet, so you just put +2, +6, whatever the results are. So at this time, we're going to go to track 9 on the test disc. And I need a little more level, please. As you can see on the preamp, we're adjusting the level up. All right, we're at approximately 0 dB now. Let's try track 10. And track 11. All right, we're going to go down on the level. Let's go down one more. One more. Let's try track 9 again. We're looking for the average between track 9, 10, and 11. That's given us a reading of about +1. Let's try 10. That's a reading of +2. Let's try track 11. +2. So we're going to go down with the reference level here some more. Let's go one more. One more. All right. This is track 11, and we're getting 0 dB now. Let's try track 10. And we're right at about +0.5. Let's try track 9. Okay, track 9 is exactly 0. 10 was 0.5. And 11 was about 0. So our level, as you can see on the preamp, for all of the procedures going from here, will remain at that 18. All right, now we're going to go to the first column, which is a plus or minus reading, reference to 70 dB. We're going to go through all the tracks for both the left and the right channel. The disc automatically plays the left and then the right, so there's no need to turn the amplifier on or off. The setting, remember, for everything that we do from this point forward remains on the preamp at the same level, in this case, 18. So here we go with track 1.
Playing track 1.
Track 1, we're getting a -6. Next.
Playing track 2.
-5. Play track 3.
Playing track 3.
-2.5. Track 4.
Playing track 4.
-2. Track 5.
Playing track 5.
-1.5. Track 6.
Playing track 6.
-4. Track 7.
Playing track 7.
-3. Track 8.
Playing track 8.
0. Track 9.
Playing track 9.
+0.5. Track 10.
Playing track 10.
+0.5. Track 11.
Playing track 11.
That's 0. Now we're going to go over to the right channel by playing track 24, 25, and 26, and we're going to look for that average like we did on the other side. In this case, if it's different, we're going to readjust the level on the subwoofer amplifier in the right speaker. So, track 24.
Playing track 24.
-1.5. Track 25.
Playing track 25.
-0.5. Track 26.
Playing track 26.
Which is 0. So as you can see, it's very similar to what we, within a dB of what we got on the left channel. So we will leave the channel on the woofers the same. And in this case, we will start now with track 16 and write down what the room is actually doing in all of these frequencies. Play track 16.
Playing track 16.
-6. Track 17.
Playing track 17.
-2. Track 18.
Playing track 18.
+1.5. Track 19.
Playing track 19.
-3. Track 20.
Playing track 20.
-2. Track 21.
Playing track 21.
-1. Track 22.
Playing track 22.
+3. Track 23
Playing track 23.
is 0. Just to make sure nothing's changed, track 24 again.
Playing track 24.
And it still is at -1.5, track 25.
Playing track 25.
-0.5 as before, track 26.
Playing track 26.
0 as before. Okay, we now have what documented here, what the room is actually doing before we make any adjustment at all. Remembering that the speaker level control is straight up now and the contour control is minimum at 1. And that's the position that we leave in all cases. In this room here, you see that we have a lot of minuses and not very many positives. What we're going to do in this case is calculate what our target should be, and by correcting 1/3. The temptation may be in a room that's fairly flat as this room is, deviations are not that large. Usually we have several frequencies that are much larger than +3. The temptation would be in a room like this to adjust for 0 in all cases. That would be very flat sound in a negative way. You want to always leave a dip where there was a dip and always leave a peak where there was a peak. We can, however, reduce the amplitudes of those, especially taking the peaks down. Limited success sometimes in trying to fill holes in a room. Okay, now we're going to the next column over on the worksheet is 1/3 of the reading, the room reading in the first column, and what our target is so that we don't lose sight of what our target would be referenced to the beginning. And I'll work through these here real quickly. So the first one was -6, that would become a -2. The next one is -5, that would be pretty much a -2 also. -2.5 would be approximately -1. As you can see, this is nothing to get really anal about. It's just an approximate numbers. -2 would be -0.5. -1.5 would be also -0.5. -4 would be -1.5. -3 would be -1. 0 is 0. Plus 0.5 for all intents and purposes is 0 or 0.5. That was a positive. Positive 0.5, that's good, and 0 is 0. On the right channel here, -6 again on the first track of that channel, which was track 16, just to remind you, would be a -2. -2 would become a -0.5. -1.5 would be a real -0.5. -3 is -1. -2 is -0.5 approximately. -1 is for, we'll leave it at a -1. +3 would be a +1. 0 is 0. -0.5 would be -1.5 would be -0.5. That was supposed to be a 0.5 is again -0.5, and 0 is 0. Now we have calculated what our targets are going to be. And now we will adjust the speakers, starting with the left speaker first. Again, track 1, we will be adjusting pot 1. I will announce the track that we're playing and the track that we're adjusting as we go through measured outcome number 1, first run through. We are now going to play all the tracks and adjust the pots according and try to meet our target the best we can. If you run out of travel on the pot, just leave it the best you can get. So, play track 1, please. We'll be adjusting pot 1.
Playing track 1.
And that would need to go up. And we are left at -6. Play track 2.
Playing track 2.
All the way up. -4. As you see, we're not making our target here, but we go as close as we can. Track 3, pot 3.
Playing track 3.
And we made target there at -1. Pot 4, track 4.
Playing track 4.
Up. Stop. 0.5. We made target. Track 5, pot 5.
Playing track 5.
Up just a little bit. Good. And we made target 0.5, -0.5. Track 6, pot 6.
Playing track 6.
Up. And we made -3. Track 7, pot 7.
Playing track 7.
Up. Good. Down at hair. Good. And we make target there at -1. Track 8, pot 8.
Playing track 8.
Now to make target, we need to go down. Good. Made target 0. Pot 9, track 9.
Playing track 9.
It's perfect, 0. Track 10, pot 10.
Playing track 10.
Plus 0.5, we're good, no change. Track 11, pot 11.
Playing track 11.
And we're at 0. So we have completed the left speaker on the first shot. Now we'll move over to the right. We're now over on the right channel, and we're going to play track 16, pot 1.
Playing track 16.
Turn that one up. He made -5. Track 17, pot 2.
Playing track 17.
Up a little. Good. We made target there at -0.5. Track 18, pot 3.
Playing track 18.
That needs to come down. Good. Made target at 0.5. We started that at +2, so by adjusting the first 2 pots, we've created a peak there we didn't have in the original room, but we still go to the target. Let's play track 19, pot 4.
Playing track 19.
Up. And we end up there at -3. Track 20, pot 5.
Playing track 20.
Up. Good. Up a little bit. Right there. Track 21, pot 6.
Track 21.
Up just a little bit. Good. Down a little bit. Right there. Made target, -1. Okay, track 22, pot 7.
Playing track 22.
Down. Right there. Track 23, pot 8.
Playing track 23.
We're good there at -1, which is very close to our reference 0. We'll leave that alone. Track 24, pot 9.
Playing track 24.
We're good there at -1. Track 25, pot 10.
Playing track 25.
minus 0.5, we're good there, no adjustment necessary. Once you go through the calibration on pot 9, 10, and 11 that we did when we set the levels, very rarely would you make an adjustment on these top three. Track 26, pot 11, just to check.
Playing track 26.
And we're at minus 1, which is within 1 dB of our target, which was 0, so we're good. And that completes the first shot through. So we've gone through on both the right and the left speaker, the left first and the right, and tried to adjust the best we could within the range of the pots available. And we'll go back through all of them again just to verify that we in fact have what we wrote down. Sometimes if large adjustments are made, we might do a little fine-tuning here, and we'll see. So play track 1, please. And we're still at minus 6. Track 2, please.
Track 2.
We're at minus 3, which is actually closer to our target. Track 3.
Track 3.
Plus 1. Track 4.
Track 4.
We're at 0. Track 5.
Track 5.
Plus 0.5. Track 6.
Track 6.
Minus 2. Track 7.
Track 7.
Minus 2. Track 8.
Track 8.
0. Track 9.
Track 9.
Still at 0. Track 10.
Track 10.
Still at plus 0.5. And track 11.
Track 11.
And we're still at 0. Track 16.
Track 16.
Still at minus 5. Track 17.
Track 17.
Minus 3. Track 18.
Track 18.
Plus 1. Track 19.
Track 19.
Minus 2. Track 20.
Track 20.
Track 21.
Track 21.
Minus 1. Track 22.
Track 22.
Plus 1. Track 23.
Track 23.
Minus 1. Track 24.
Track 24.
Minus 1. Track 25.
Track 25.
0. Track 26.
Track 26.
0. You'll see in this case here that we are within plus or minus 1 dB of the first outcome, so we won't make any adjustments. That's well within. Remember now, these measurements are with the speakers in the room. Very difficult for speakers to attain this kind of flatness even in an anechoic chamber, but this includes the room. So when you have a minus 6 like we have here as the final outcome in track 1, which is 20 hertz, or minus 3, the speaker is quoted as being plus or minus 3 dB, 20 to 40K. Minus 6 is within 3 dB of that in the room. So these are great measurements, no need to go in and readjust. Had one of these deviated more than plus or minus 1 dB, you would want to go and readjust back to your target, what your target was in the first column, and that's the reason for doing the target, so that we're always reminded. Because after going through all of the adjustments, it can have some effect on what you did. And that's the reason right there, here we didn't make any readjustments, but that's the reason why you do target, so that you know where to go should there be a big change from outcome 1 and outcome 2. Most cases, they'll be within plus or minus 1 dB, no change required. Now we come on to the user controls. So if your dealer has, or anyone has successfully adjusted for the standing waves and the nulls in the room, unless you move the speakers, there's no need to redo that. That will not change. If you make a system change, preamp, power amp, there are user controls on the back which should be readjusted, and that is the woofer level and the contour. We do that by using track 13 and 14 on the test disc, which is a very good recording of a stand-up bass. And what we're looking for is, as the jazz player goes up and down playing on the stand-up bass, that we get what sounds to be an equal loudness on every note through the different frequencies from one to the other. If the overall bass is low, that you would adjust by raising the level. Now, this is to taste. It has really nothing to do with the calibration that we just finished. That was dealing with room conditions, standing waves, and nulls in the room. Now we're talking about where your personal taste comes into play here. So if you'd like all of the bass to be a higher level, because that's what you prefer, that's done with the woofer level on the back of each subwoofer. Even if you had a stagger in the calibration procedure where one channel was adjusted differently than the other, you would maintain that stagger. Let's say we had raised the level or cut the level on the right channel 2 dB. As you raise the bass to taste, if you go up dB on the left, you would go up 1 dB on the right. But still, they would not be the same. You adjust them up the same. The contour must always be the same. Whatever you do to the left, you do to the right, because that involves phase shift, and they need to be the same. The right and the left speaker need to be on the same contour setting. So now we'll play track 13 and we'll play track 14, and we'll go through how to adjust the contour and the level. The contour control has to do with whether you like your bass, the lowest setting, -1 on the contour, corresponds to a woofer Q of approximately 0.5. Max on the contour corresponds to a woofer system that's been cued to approximately 1. What's considered maximally flat is 0.7. Normally, on a concrete floor like we have here today, you would have your contour set somewhere between 5 and 10. If you're on a wood floor that's a bit of a functioning as a bit of a diaphragm, the contour there would typically be between 1 and 5 or 6 or so. Just you're adjusting for the warmth. If you want the sound of the instrument to be warmer, you go up on the contour. If you want it to be more controlled, tighter and cleaner, you would go down on the contour. Understanding that you want to maintain that richness that a stand-up bass has. It is reverberant, and it does have a fullness to it. We don't want to make it unusually dry, because that's what's going to happen to all your music, and in my opinion, that's not musical. Okay, so now we've adjusted the speakers to the room. We've done the bass calibration, and we're going to work on setting the contour and the level control. We've already raised the volume because you'll discover when you play track 13 and 14, which are music, the level's going to be too low. In this case, we've already turned it up, and we're going to start the music now. Please.
Playing track 13.
Okay, now I can already hear that the bass level corresponds well with the overtones, which are coming from the non-adjustable part of the speaker. So our bass balance is good. We're going to leave the level control at the normal, straight up 12 o'clock position on the level control. But it is a bit dry. It doesn't have that big fullness that a stand-up bass has. So we're going to turn the contour up, and I think we're going to go up to 5. So, and then we'll reassess what that sounds like. Brad's going to turn the contour up to 5 on both speakers. Remember, the contour is always the same. Whatever you do to the left must be done to the right. Okay, we've set the contour now on both speakers to 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, now we have that bigness that a stand-up can have in a real room, where it's slightly resonant, but it doesn't hang on forever. It dies off normally like it should. When the contour was down at 1, it didn't have that resonant fullness that a stand-up bass has in a room, and that's why we turned the contour up. We're going to try turning it up to 6, and we're going to turn this up until that natural reverberation that a stand-up bass has becomes, it just wants to hang on too long. It becomes overbearing, and then we know we've gone too far. So now both speakers, the right and the left, are at a contour of 6. That's getting very close. I think we'll try putting it on 7. And bass is the foundation of music, in my opinion, and we want to make sure that we have all of the natural resonant fullness, but not too much to where it tends to hang into the room. Then we've gone too far. Let's try track 14.
Playing track 14.
On track 14, you can see there's a nice scale as he goes on down in frequency. Got a bit big at the bottom. I think we'll put the contour back at 6. Could we restart 14, please? We now have it adjusted to where it's very believable that that instrument is actually in the room. So again, this is to taste. This is an adjustment, both the level and the contour control, that any user is free to just remember where it was, experiment to your heart's content. But this is a matter of taste. And with this speaker and all of our speakers with powered subwoofers, you have the option of bringing it into what works for you. And that's what it's all about. And it's not messing up any of the calibration that has to do with the standing waves or any characteristic that the room might have. We've tuned that out, or at least most of it. The trend, the character of the room is still there. It's very important that that be there, because the ear brain has the ability to separate what the room's doing versus what the music is doing. In the bass, it does hear the two is the same. So we've minimized the issues in the room, and especially the peaks, which tend to hang on too long. And they've now been tuned out. We've set the contour and the level, and we're ready to play music. All of this can be perceived to be complex and difficult to do. As you can see, it's not difficult. We want to always remember that these Model 7 Vandersteens came out of the box, like all speakers from any company, designed to be maximally flat, have good bass authority, and they're really no different than any other loudspeaker that's properly designed out of the box. So some rooms will have, all rooms will have some issues in the bass, and we don't want to compromise imaging and the spatiality of the sound by having to put the speakers where they need to be to get the bass right. For this reason, when I designed speakers that were full range, I was thinking about designing flagships that were full range. It became very clear to me that we needed some way of making the bass perform correctly at the position where the speakers found themselves based on imaging and other things that dictate placement that weren't biased by what the room was doing in the bass. And making these things work in any home environment is what it's all about. Without, the important thing is involving any processing or any additional circuitry or any DSP in the frequencies that would affect the purity and the transparency that one would have in a basic system to do with the treble, the mid-range, and the mid-bass. That has been unaltered by this process. There is no additional circuitry. It's all done in the bass amplifier in the loudspeaker.
Thank you.